There we go. Now I think I'm live. So let me know in the chat if you see me live. I think I can see the chat from here. Yeah, so this is the first time I'm actually streaming directly from OBS with a live stream. I usually record when I'm in OBS. I think I might have done this one time before. So let me know if it's not coming through clearly. But I wanted to react to Ronnie 2k's tweets here and the overall situation. It's not just about Ronnie 2k, but I think excellent. Okay, I'm live. I see Dope D in the chat. I think Ronnie 2k's reaction highlights the overall issue, right? So Ronnie's kind of on a roll today because... So, all right, before I even get into this, there's a few disclaimers that I need to say. Number one, this is not about Ronnie. This is about 2K needing a community manager, all right? Number two, I never ever want to go after Ronnie directly because it's not a personal thing. It's just about the fact that because 2K doesn't have a community manager, you have different people at different times stepping into that role. And because they're not actually paid and educated to do that role, they do a bad job. And doing a bad job as a community manager really equates to either releasing bad information or saying stupid things. And that's where we get to Ronnie 2K. Disclaimer number two. I am close friends with Czar, an NBA 2K developer. I'm so close with Czar. If Czar asked me today, hey, can you quit 2K and never talk about it again? I'd be like, done. And I'd just walk away from the game and never even touch it again. Right? If it came down to talking about 2K and hurting Czar in any way and not talking about 2K and being sure that our relationship was secure, 2K will go right out the window. I have other things I could do. So with that said, understand that I personally have reasons that I do not want to go after any developer, not just Czar, because through Czar, I understand how hard these people work. I understand what a difficult job it is. And before we get into this, because I'm going to say some things that people at 2K are not going to like, right? But before we get into this, this is not a personal thing. This is just about what 2K and Ronnie 2K are doing wrong in these situations and what they need to fix, right? Because it's so bad right now. It's really, really embarrassing. Like, I'm shocked at how embarrassing this is. So going to Ronnie's feed, basically, he's like I said, he's on a roll today. So here's the situation if you guys don't know. When the game for Next Gen came out, people quickly discovered that dunking was very, very strong. In fact, it was so strong that it didn't matter what your interior defense rating is. And similar to dunking, steals, which was a very expensive attribute with building your character, you could get steals without going up with your steal rating. The way, which I've been saying for years, if you can get bump steals and passing lane steals, you don't really need the ratings for like on-ball steals, right? You can put it somewhere else. So the game launched in this state where you could get steals and play perimeter defense, whether you had a lot of these attributes or not. So people did what any competitive gamer does when an attribute is not working. They didn't put resources into it. This is every game, by the way, whether it's Destiny or World of Warcraft, whatever. If something's not working in the game, then people don't put resources into it because the idea is to min-max your build. This is across all of gaming. It's not people cheating. They're min-maxing their builds. That's what competitive players do. But as we've said over and over and over again, the 2K community, well, specifically the 2K as a company, is not used to a competitive community. And I know that might seem strange because it's developed more and more over the last few years, but that's not the origins of this game. This game started off as a sports simulation, which was more of a single-player couch competitive thing. And so the people who've been at the company for a long time, that's their level of expertise. To my knowledge, and this is no offense to anybody, there's nobody at 2K that really knows shit about making a competitive game. And I think 2K is an example of that theory. Now, there might be somebody they hired. There might be somebody over there and so on and so forth. But in terms of the chain of command, their expertise is not in competitive gaming. That is not what they do. So there's a lot of errors when it comes to the protocol of competitive gaming. And 2K is not just a competitive game. It's also this kind of quasi MMO, and it's also a card game, and it's also a sports simulation. So you need experts in all of those things if you're not going to be pissing people off. And ideally, you need community managers for all of those things if you're not going to be pissing people off. And so, Ronnie, there's actually a tweet I want to go down to before I even get to it. Okay. So this tweet right here. Hey, yo, we giving Ronnie a W 2020 crazy. Hopefully the park frame rate stutter is fixed soon. Ronnie's reply, we fixed that too. 2020 is officially bonkers, collecting too many W's. The apocalypse is near. This is an insane way to interpret our main, most popular mode has been broken since day one. This is one of the stupidest things I've ever read from someone who is temporarily stepping into the role of a person communicating with the community. This is the most embarrassing thing I might have seen this guy tweet. Collecting all of these W's. This has been broken since day one. If Overwatch launched with competitive gaming, with competitive modes not working, they just apologize. Guys, we're sorry, we'll do better. Where's the humility in this guy's response with this? Ronnie, this is insane. I'm just man to man, bro. Like man to man, professional to professional. This is insane. This is an asinine tweet that you wrote. All right? So moving forward. So he tweeted out builds, and people say that he tweeted out some builds that were made in line with blah, blah, blah. But here's the problem. So they're now buffing interior defense, right? And they're making it so that interior defense matters more as a stat. I couldn't agree with this more. If the stat wasn't working, if you couldn't really tell the difference between a 25 and a 99 in any stat, then that stat needs to be worked on, particularly because it costs resources. I'm with it. The problem is when people make these builds, and mind you, this is your most hardcore, loyal fan base. Everybody knows how hard it is to get these next-gen systems. So if you're playing 2K on a next-gen system, you probably bought the next-gen system because you wanted to play 2K that badly. So you're either a content creator or a really hardcore fan of 2K. So first of all, it's a throbbing dick move to be rude to these people in this way for this particular thing. Now, we all know that the 2K community can be toxic and juvenile and, they cheat and with the Zen and all this stuff. And when they do that, do what you got to do. You ban them. We don't welcome that in this community. That's absolutely necessary. But in this case, that does not apply because these people who made these builds are the most hardcore fan base. And as the most hardcore fan base, spending VC for these builds, right? Because everybody's going to Rookieville for the most part, at least in the in the mid to high 80s, right? So that means they spent, because it's just too early for them to have grinded that all up from my career. So these people are the people who are trying to educate themselves about this new builder to make the best decisions with their time and their money. So even if these people are wrong in some way, a little class and a little dignity is what any competent community manager would bring to the table. Now, here's the problem. The problem is not the interior defense issue. The problem is not people making builds. And as much as I, hate to say it for the topic of this video, the problem is not even Ronnie 2K's asinine tweets. The problem is this very simply. When the game launched and the developers know that they're going to be making changes to the builder, the community is working off of pure faith. When the developers actually have the power, and anybody watching this, can y'all tweet this out? Because I definitely want to, get this conversation out there. But when the developers know that they're making changes to the builder or they're prepared to make changes, all it takes is to go online, 2K TV, in the tweets, hey guys, we realize that some things aren't the way they're supposed to be in the builder. So be careful before you overcompensate because we will be making balance changes. That doesn't even tell people what the balance changes might be. And that's still more competent than saying nothing and then coming out like, ha ha, dummies. You actually build the builder that we made. You actually did the most efficient thing for your build. What idiots you are for trusting us, right? So that's one side of the trust, is that we trusted the information. And I don't have the game. I'm not like, if it sounds like I'm pissed off, I just don't like seeing this level of disrespect towards people who are paying for the game and putting time into the game, because it only leads to more toxicity in the community. It makes it worse, not better, right? So I haven't even gotten my console yet. Knock on wood. Hopefully, the situation I got going on comes through and I'll see y'all with this on Friday. Point being, these people made the decisions based on the information that they were given. And because you're 2K, you give them no other information, right? You don't say, we're going to be fixing this down the line. There's going to be changes. We looked into it. It's like Mike Wong talked about this very recently, like a day or two ago. Interior defense only works for basically post-up stuff. That's the way it works right now. Imagine if he'd said that day one. How different would that have been? You knew that's how it worked on day one. And I'm not blaming Mike, because it's not his job to tell that to the community ever. Yesterday, today, the day before, tomorrow, 2 years from now. That's not Mike's job. That's the job of a community manager, which 2K doesn't have, which is why we see this comedy of errors, right? This consecutive accomplishments of incompetence by anybody who works for 2K and has a Twitter account. There's just nonsense, misinformation, and bad takes up, down, left, and right? So here's the other side of the faith issue. Do we trust 2K to fix something in their game? And this is why Ronnie's tweet is just so oblivious to the community. Because the community has been trained year after year after year that if there's a mistake in 2K, you just have to deal with it until next year. We have a term for it. We call it legacy issues. But this has happened across the board in other places. How long ago was it that people were able to make competitive builds with no defensive stats? Was that 2K18? Was that 2K16? And since then, 2K has just always fixed the defense in the game? No, that was last year. The BP build. It was a competitive build with no defense in it. So to look at people like they're exploiting the game for not making a defensive build, no, that's ridiculous. First of all, you should be able to say, I'm going to make a game with I'm going to make a build with no defense in it because my offense is going to be that strong. And that's really what people are dealing with these builds. Like, they don't have to remake their builds. Their builds are fine. Most of the YouTubers who, made these build videos, they have like insane park records for the most part. They win all the time. So it's not like they wasted their time. And if you're playing with their builds and you're not winning, it's probably because you're not skilled, no offense, not because the build is holding you back, even after the patch. I'm watching all these people trying to stop dunks from directly under the basket. Listen, man, I'm not Tom Thibodeau, but that's not the way you play defense. But that's neither here nor there. The point is that 2K does not have a good track record for fixing their game, especially now in a late game cycle. This is a game that you can say it's come out, but it's not really out because everybody who wants the consoles doesn't have the consoles, and everyone who buys the consoles doesn't have 2K. So this means that the actual max population of 2K21 is extraordinarily small right now. This isn't a full-on game launch yet because of the console scarcity, right? So for the greater public playing this game, it's going to be an extremely short life cycle for this game. So on that extremely short life cycle, the question becomes, how quickly can you fix the issues in this game? And with 2K, again, terrible track records. I can go on and on and on and on and on, naming issues that were broken at the beginning of the year that people just had to deal with all year, starting from last year, going to every single 2K all the way back. I'm not mad about that. I don't like the fact that you, in acting as community manager, because you are talking to the community and effectively managing it, you're talking about what people should be doing, where they need to go to get information, you're conveying information. That's community management. That's what you're doing right now. Whether or not that's your title, that's what you're doing, right? So as acting in this moment community manager, you are acting in complete unawareness of what 2K's been. As a marketing guy, that's fine. It's your job to be full of shit, right? As a marketing person, it is your job to be full of shit and spin every negative thing into a positive thing to make more money. And when it comes to that, I got no problem with it. Get the bag, because your job is to basically be a sleazeball. But that sleazeball shit doesn't work with a community manager. And it's just time for, you want the community to grow up? Y'all need to grow up. All right? You want the community to stop being toxic? You need to stop being toxic. I do not excuse a single toxic action from the community. But at the same time, I'm calling a spade a spade. When you're making it worse, you're making it worse. And this is the kind of behavior that the community reacts to in a negative way. When they just sat down and tried to make a good build, and then they did make a good build according to the way the game was working, it's not like they could see the interior defense isn't doing anything and they can go on Twitter and be like, hey, community manager, what's up with interior defense? I want to make my build, but I'm a little concerned. And somebody will pop up and say, hey, we realize this is an issue. We're working on it. Make the build to the best of your ability. When we get done with it, all attributes will be working as intended. No, that's not a conversation you can have. You ask the 2K developer something and they don't respond, which, by the way, they shouldn't, because they have jobs to do. They shouldn't be on Twitter talking to you about the game, right? Like Ronnie, even Ronnie, he should be out selling the game. That's why I'm not mad at the fact that he's bad at this. I'm mad that he's being an ass while he's bad at it. And he's oblivious to the fact that he's bad at it. You know what I'm saying? That's what pisses me off. It's the fact that you have no humility to the fact of all the many mistakes that 2K has made throughout the years and why your community behaves the way they do when they make their builds and this, that, and the other. You act like you've been open and fair and diligent and you've made fixes and you've always had the community's best interests in heart. You never exploited them for money. You've never done something like, oh, I don't know, midway through the year, cut the VC earnings in my career by 30%. You know what I'm saying? You've never done anything like that. You've never gone into my team and broken the mode with a completely terrible card because you just needed people to rip packs. You've never done anything like that. You have competitive integrity. Man, stop it. Stop it. Ronnie, you embarrassed yourself today. You embarrassed yourself. I don't care how you feel about it if this gets to you. I'm done. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.